cheese yak e ti the kat Johan. Asar tu yak e yursatini. Ike ya wuchin khasati. Ya ha yukatangi da dawe. Ha yukasatak. Ye awa hatuati. Ċeċeħ qaqaqasti llingit ġewija hayati. Ye awa xoaq jak Tlein jaxrawi ʼatángi. Xkate awa xanakawanik. Ya wuchina ya agachtucha. Tleik dihin awa konach dekit awa akawtlitz is. Ya qaqachguk qatukeil kihas. Kuntak sakshaway aya aan. Kunakawi kutrayanaha altin. Dituwasagu watu. Aqaawe we kutrayanaha. Joya. Aste ani kade aya. Ya kanal itch. Ye awahatuwati. Adeshtu tultuwu ya. Ya qaqachguk qutqayanaha an ohansu adehayuqatangi Wooch katujehya hatu wasagu ayashtu tultu qaqachtu aqawi atqachtu layehayuqatangi qaqlage haina kawanik yagachtu ski hayuqatangi Qawe yekwati. Chakawe wuchin khanastiji. Yekwakwati. Yahayukatangi hashukakwati. Aqawe eka haste itkhyantu atawe wuchin. Akakawe we de has akauta khuti atawe. Akayautle khuti atawe. Aqawe kegurtlatin hayukatangi hatut ajig. Tlekdihino etsu ḳeixwnéi xanakawani kwan qanins tlelketein qajit ukitch. Ajoykagachtuak kitatin yuqagachtullaat. Joya haqeidachaya gachtukit ya hayukatangi. Gulchish Johan gulchish ya ide kakwaha wuchin yuqagachtullaati. Chadasa itawasagu wal chadasa data ya yejini. Ide kakwaha gulchish qeidisa ahi.
How? Khwasatin we kayadahayi adat ʼatátk Tlein conversations away. How? We kayadahayi adat kachkwe ka guneate. Hastu yawaka atcha ka atleich nachen ka janwu ka chak atcha hastuwacha or watuwacha how wanganines wanganines ayawa kahwe achtuwu yake wanganines kahwe yawaka atu unique. How? Just to cut. Oh wait. Ḳeixwnéi Yoo ʼatángi ʼatutli.átk Tleshwasaku we Yoo sentence ka yes. Yoo ʼatángi
Wooch it ʼatángi.
Wooch it Yoo ʼatángi. Wooch it Yoo ʼatángi. Xeex Wooch it Yoo ʼatángi Ḳeixwnéi Yoo Achtawasagu Achtiwu way screen. Share my screen. Achtawasagu way share my screen.
Gook.
Oh.
Ḳeixwnéi nasne ikashuk ḳeixwnéi.
Okay. So, Ḳeixwnéi Yoo ḥesuadat
Ḳeixwnéi Ḳeixwnéi yusne.
Oh. Okay. Okay. Ḳeixwnéi Yoo Achtawu unique way. Just to cut. Gwash Ǩa'achni ḥesuadat ye gwan chakayin shadasadat ikwajun ik chwahin laga chu'awaya cha'akni Ḳeixwnéi Yoo achtawasagu yahwaka chanin datani chu'awaya kunach gagan at chus suji yeowe at tlagay kachtawu yanat ainsati. How? Gwash
Chadech with the cut that Ţeshwnéi Kudach ye kuge ach tlage ka achtuwu. Ţeshwnéi dasa itch.
oh.
Like zoom back. Kuchte nataku.
Zoom back?
Yisitinge we Shinach Kayende 190%. 150 Gwashkiwi Hatuati.
Yahweh. So would to waka I think at Yukatangi would to what tea we hear this, we think this. We imagine this. We imagine this. We a to a G. Do a ka hetsuadat ochajun chatkoa. Achawe cha you uwaya or achawe chadasa dot ikwajun ik chwahin. Watuaka. Ćḥewnéi Yoo Ťatlakatguk Yiyanaka at Yuchatankat.
Oh, cheese.
Ćḥexa Yuchatank or
Yeah, you did quickly.
Konach.
It's a good clue. Ķehawé. Yeet koha yuan. What do you say? I did. You go a one.
Geet, xeex geet. ʼatángi in ʼatutli geet.
Yeah, what?
ʼatutli geet. Wekagan ke kawaxixeganan. Wekagan ke kawaxixeganan. Seganan.
Yeah, what? Good cheese. Ķexa. You did call this.
Hut. I can sing this very short Coquiton song. Day in the tan wujihini hayashi siki akachu he hey 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 yo hey ha chakatin keda.
Cheese Tlein. Ķexa. In the tan. Yeah, oh, geet. Do actually.
Yeah, 8. We Wooch de hach with the geet. Ach wooch.
Okay, good cheese. Okay. Zucke. Johan.
Kutchat wodzigit ku ichlikudzi flinke yuchatangi Wooch.
Okay.
Ďakujem.
Oh, good.
Plus actua ushku dak wodzigit.
Okay. Yeah, well, okay. Go ahead, Juan.
That's
Hassan,
sick.
what's the next way? Kashuk Hawaki. Cheese. Oh, it's okay. Okay. Tlitza. ʼatutli.
Ťatlakatguk again. Just one more.
Tlitza has to eat koha akayika kwati.
Okay.
ʼatutli. Do eat koha.
Ťatlak. Okay. Ďakujem. Kadain Watuwashuk. Kadain Watuwashuk. How? Ťatlakatguk ʼatángi. always, every time. Kadena futuwashuk. Tundatani Chaslingit Rusati Hayachyati. How? We Slingit Tlenach human being Yachyati, human being Sati. Chaslingit Rusati Hayachyati. So Chaslingit Rusati Yachyati. How? Ye eat kuaha?
ʼatutli ʼátk.
Āchtek.
Finish. Nasco de Shu Kuka Dis Kechilasak ʼatutli. I listened to too much political news. ʼatutli.
Okay. ʻatutli. Xeex, geet. Adusa, yeah, that.
Bana wasu kehat sigit kunachgao.
Xeex, okay.
Hashinkit Satiyi Awe Hakach Yak Adesli Nukya Yati Hawusnek Nach Yak Yati.
Xeex, geet. Yeah, oh wow.
And Dech Suhede Shugaktu Tan Klakidas Ayana At Ani Wushin Ye Gustutlashat.
Okay. Xeex.
Yeah, wow.
Yayagi Kanach late Ayakawadan. Achoe will yeast shua he. We git dark what the git achoe a key with the chun.
Oh. Sean. Xeex.
Okay, Nicholas Tini here one. Aktu was a good kunak Ḳeixwnéi Yoo X. Ku ʼatutli ga ne xeex sa ya Wooch. Okay.
Geet. Xeex Tlein.
Gaat we UFO skersnik dag de geet slug gaan jade gaat slug gaan nak jadag une hich kegat gaskiet goed zo.
Oh. Xeex. Geet. Kawayik tiaku. Panet yagu. Kawayik panet yagu. Geet. What you got?
Hadaya. Kszade kat hat grach zigidi. Achawe gagandak uachech weseo itach.
Oh,
Uchawe.
sheesh. Kecha. What you got? Hawakshi kashuk khawaqi kekwasha ijid khsani. Kewasaqwati. Okay, gonna cheese you, hon. So I took a few notes, and so I thought I'd see where we're at in terms of understanding some of this stuff. What would be Wooch Yoo ʼatutli.átk? Tlein inach was das away.
Together, people converse.
Yes, so this is conversation. Conversing, talking, right? What's the deal with the U and the K at the end? I gotta tell you, I was in a literature class years ago when I was an annoying master's student, and they said, okay, did you guys come up with a question as a group? I said, yeah, here's our question. What's up with that? And she's like, could you be more specific? I said, what's up with that on page 74? So, and then I asked the real question because she did not laugh at all. Well, what's going on with this U and the K? See it right there? U and this K?
Repeated?
Yes. So this is the repetitive imperfective for a na conjugation verb. You're going to have U, and then it's going to end with a K. And that's why you have U ʼatángi, right? And that's the noun form. U ʼatángi is the verb form. They are talking. So you could say, ʼachín ʼatángi, they're talking to me. And you can also use a negative of that, kesh ʼachín ʼatángi, they're not talking to me, aka silent treatment. What about ha'xeex ʼatutli ʼátk? That's what I wanted to say that one. I don't think I said it right when I did say it. Oops. Oh, and I also think I spelled it wrong. Hold on. Hold on. There. Ha'xeex ʼatutli. Kit'atin gwashkiwe. Anything you recognize. Can we get ourselves just to that verb?
Our words is the first part, and then our language, ʼatángi, and then ʼatutli.átk. That's a future form of with we as the subject.
Okay. And what's the ha'xeex? What is that part? It's not language.
Our mouths, or
Our mouths. From, right? So from our mouths. You could say ha'xeex. Xeex and geet are the same thing. Okay, so that leaves us with keet. So we're going to go into everybody's favorite yellow book and go find it. So let's go down to K, and we'll look for keet. And there it is. So we see when we say ʼatutli.átk, we're looking for an L classifier, right? L classifier, geet. Those are the only two things that are on there. Because then you got gach, right? There might be a K in front of it. Okay. So then we see to pry up or to pry off of. So then we see pry is underlined, so that's what we're going to go look up in English. And we go up to pry. And it could be sakit, I don't know. And so what we see is an imperfective. So because there's an imperfective, I now know that this is an act verb, right? Because it's not a position verb, it's not a state verb. The only other one with an imperfective is an act verb. And then because it's written here now, I know the stem variation for the imperfective is going to be long and high. Then I see K kit, and that reveals my big mistake. So why would, and you see here, kitch. So this one is going to want to have K in front of it. So now I got to go back, fix it. ʼatutli.átk. We're going to pry our language out of our mouths. I like that verb because I'll have to check. Let me see. Let me show you folks where I started thinking about this one. There it is. So when we lost Richard Dowenhauer, shortly after I think immediately after his funeral, if I remember right, we gathered together to talk about this Raven book. And it was very sensitive, but we were also like, it wasn't the best situation, but then there was a lot of people who came from different places, and we needed to make some decisions before everybody left. So we all kind of gathered, and I think everyone was sad, and some people felt a little awkward and didn't know how to start. All of a sudden, Nora just gave us this amazing speech as the widow. And ha'iqawusu. And we received a blessing. And that blessing was named Shteotin Kathy Reddy. She busted out her phone and she hit record. Boom. And right at the beginning. And so there's a recording of this if anybody wants to hear it. There's a young Yenhua Shah on there banging around on stuff during certain points of it. Beautiful, amazing speech. But there is a point here where she says, where is it? Right there. Sometimes away. And she translated that as sometimes it becomes awkward in the hands. But it means sometimes it hasn't been pried out of their hands yet. And so I really like that because she was talking about that with, and so, this shows you there's a zero version of this verb, right? It's a zero classifier on here. And also looking at this, I also know that this one is zero conjugation. How would I know that? Verb detectives, sleuthers, verb sleuthers. What mode is that in? Right there.
Perfective habitual?
Yes, and so it's a habitual. And I know we haven't done these yet, but here's how the habitual generally works, right? is you're always going to have the conjugation prefix. So you got to have na, ga, or qa. But for 0, there's nothing there because there's, you just say cha when you get to it. But the 0 one is the only one that also gets the perfective marker. The others don't. You say natich and nagutch and whatever else the one is going to be. Teach, right? And so you're going to have a minus I classifier. I'll have to look up. I haven't done the stem variation on these ones a whole lot. I can't remember. I think this one's always long and high. The 0s are long and high. I think the others are short and high, maybe. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful speech by a wonderful person. Okay. Ḳeixwnéi was Evelyn Hodge. Ňíxex, that's who you're talking about? Wooch Yoo X. What was that one again? I forget.
With his or her words.
Boom, it's a sentence.
Oh.
It was the name we came up for a sentence. Wooch Yoo X. Language that follows one after the other. What's that one saying?
Before a person's eyes.
Before the eyes of the people.
I'm gonna screen share.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Screen share.
That's the command form. That's the command form for do the electric window. Do your electric window before the eyes of the people. Ḥeixwnéi is like the do it verb, right?
So can you kind of add that absolutely, literal translation there too?
Oh yeah, so this is yes, I can.
Worksheet.
Let's see how many of these. Do your electric window before the eyes of the people. It's kind of rearranged, right? So I guess that's if I do a literal translation, I'm going to try and figure out but yeah, people's before their eyes, do it, your electric window. And window's made up of 3 parts, and one of them is a relational suffix. What are the other 2 parts? Anybody know?
Walk, I.
Walk. Yeah, well. What's that first part? It's a contracted form of it. While you're thinking, I'll check the spelling.
Transparent.
That. Chai. What's chai? Low tone, not high tone. Chai walk. Chalkoe with the xeex. Shizqtin. Ye'ewe di tawasagu yukawatani yadayak. Aqawi akade adugu. Ya qawul qudzati adugu akadik ahad yahyati. Atade awe. Ya wooch tutsati. Atade awe. Yeta yete. Ka awe akade akawas kayin. Akausahu yawe. Aka awe. Ya yeta yete. Akade awe yedusne. Nak. Tsacht. Gwash. Tsalkinaku. Akahin akade kaututsaha. Ḥweich aya katude yeosane. Punachoe stakatha kautu wasai. Ya hastu niku ka hastu shitugu at hastu da etachaya yekkwasane. Yegoxane. Chai yikt. Chai yik. Chak away. Gwaltsik. Anasi team. Chawaki wudutlechen. Chai walk. Chai waki.
Window.
Sweat.
Window?
Sweat lodge eye. But yes, that is a window. And what's Yotu a G?
Is that the same G that's like the Yehua G?
Yes. Yehua G, ye aya.
So that would be like believe, right? Or is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but what is it? It's not just believe, right? There's another part in there.
The two is we.
Yeah. So we believe, we imagine, we suspect it to be so. About yin to tan.
Face down.
Face down. And I do think wak shiyik. I don't know if that switches to day in the future. It might just still be wak shiyik. But the rest looks really good. Chatakoe chwaach achuk.
I always heard laughter. Is that like that?
Yeah, and that could be hear or heard. Like we see these ones used for, like the time reference is like, it's pretty fluid. But if it starts with chaklak, I'd probably just say I always hear it. Wuchinekeitikach to skeet. Dedicate this sentence to xeex, Selena Everson.
Together.
Together.
And then the verb is future and the subject is we, but I can't get further than that.
Okay, very good. What's a gate? What's a git? Anybody ever heard that one?
Said something wrong, did something wrong.
To quote Judas Priest, broke the law. But I guess that'd be Yanis a gate Yanis breaking the law. Did some shenanigans. I don't know how to spell it. So if you say a gate they got to skeet together, we're gonna cause some trouble. But it's open to interpretation, right? So we have a lot of fun with that one. But she used to talk about shenanigans sometimes, Selena, which was a lot of fun. So I was thinking about these, and I'll share this. We'll probably go over it just kind of briefly. But there are, so pulling out some of these verbs, I think one of the geet verbs has to do with falling or moving quickly. And this is usually for living things, but I don't know if that's always the case. So then you get falling towards, so you do have a motion verb for it. You have falling onto, so there's a 0 as well. You have, for something to fall, oops, looks like there's a double T in there. For something to just fall generally, to say like it fell, right? So you could say it fell towards something, it fell and hit something, or it just fell. You've got some kind of options. Tripping over something, waking up. So here you do have one with an S classifier, and that is for someone to wake someone up, right? So you could say ʼkhechetzakit, wake me up at 9 o'clock, whatever, bossy, whatever you're bossing around someone for. And so then, that has a third person object, well, that has an object and a subject. And then when you switch it to plus D, which is very common, well, this time it kicks the subject out, which is actually, I guess, not that common. A lot of times it kicks the object out. But so this is what happens. You have a plus D version, which is just talking about like waking up, right? So not someone woke me up, just I woke up, right? And then losing something. There's ḳeexwnéi, and then there's ʼatutli.átk. ʼatutli is a more common version, I think, of this, but I do think this is just to generally get lost, right? So that's geet number 1. Under geet number 2, I think this one has to do with doing or acting, which is really interesting because there's a nuke verb as well, right? Ḳenuke, which also has to do with, I think, acting and also behavior. And then there's also nay, which is, I think, acting and, well, or doing, but more like associated with work. So like, I guess it's like, it's good to compare these to just see similarities and differences with them. And so you get breaking the law, right? Or doing something wrong. And so they use this one, we'll look at some examples. They use it to talk about Raven. They said, he is just messing around all over the place, right? They said, he messed around all over the place. And so on its own, like if you just said this, it does sound like someone's doing something wrong, or they're violating protocols or the law, but it could be they're up to no good as well. So it kind of depends. Like, it's sort of like if you're saying someone's up to no good, like if I said it real serious, like, ugh, cousin's up to no good again, right? But I could just be laughing. I was like, cousin's really up to no good tonight, right? Those are two different things using the same language, right? So you have, and this is usually ʼatgate or a gate. But then you could say, that could be me, they're coming against me, right? They're doing something against me. Because this gate is really interesting because it means to like kind of encounter something or to be touching something. So it could be used to talk about something leaning against something. It could be talked about to be like two people ran into each other. Wushgetas, wushgetas wudaat. They encountered each other, like when those stories, whenever they meet someone in the woods or whatever. But it could be like, let's meet up, right? You say, a gate day, ʼatutli.átk. We're going to meet up over wherever, and you can say where the place is, right? But then if you say gate in front of talking or thinking verbs, those are disagreements and arguments. So you could say, Wooch gate you has ʼatutli.átk. they are arguing. They're arguing with each other. Or you could say, like, let's say somebody says something. They said, the LA Lakers are a great basketball team. I'd say, ʼatutli.átk. I think I'm opposed to that, right? ʼatutli.átk. I'm opposed to what you just sort of said. I think differently, right? So there are times where this geet is talking about like being in opposition as well. And you could put t in front of it. They're arguing because they think differently.
Can I ask a question about gate number one, like hut gate, like, you know, you're feeling lost. What about like people who are like lost in themselves? Is that the same thing? Like, like when you get dementia, you're confused, you're lost where you are. Is that the same kind of I'm lost all the time, every time?
Yeah, I heard that one. Go back to the notes. Like, I think it could work. I think you can have a metaphor, absolutely, with like losing. And so this, to get lost, right? We have put, right? And so put is the uses of this, right? So let's see. So literally you have I threw it and it got lost, I guess is how you kind of need a bunch of words in English, I think, to do what that thing is doing in Tlingit. But this is used, I've heard this one used for kind of two main purposes. I forgot it and should know it. And they died off from me. Especially someone that you're really close to, which I know is always sensitive. And then, so you could say gut, and then there's different ways to talk, and then you could tie it back to their life or something. But I think when you're using this, like you're really talking about like, it sounds to me a little bit more like bad decisions. If you're gonna say like you're really lost, like, because it could mean literally lost, like they went for a walk and got lost. But then I would say, this would be, and there's different ways you can conjugate the verb, right? So what are the pieces going on here?
That's a singular person going somewhere. And then the tuwu means like spirit, or like inside.
Mm-hmm. Oops, kick this down. And then when we have this ut, usually if ut is high tone, if it's not clear that they have arrived there, it means going around. Like you say, I got to cruise, Connie. Hey, in-law, let's go cruising, right? So the ut would just be going around. And that, we got it down to one word left. So this, anybody know what root is? Root is the opposite. It's the opposite of een or tin.
So not with?
Without. So the two contexts that I've heard this one, so and you could interpret that as spirit as well, or intentions, right? The first time I heard this was working on working with Ḳeex on her conversations project. And then there was this conversation with ʼatutli and Wooch. And at one point, they're talking about coming back from World War II and from wars. And so ʼatutli, Walter Sobolov, was talking about this in the context of PTSD, right? Which I think they used to call it shell shock, and then they called it something, combat fatigue, right? It went through a series of different names. And then I heard Nora talk about this when she was talking about herself and dealing with dementia. Like, she was aware that she had dementia. And she says, I just walk around without my thoughts. So that's how I've heard folks talk about that.
Une,
Ah,
at that language conference a few years ago in Juneau, Ken Grant, remember he was the MC, he used that too, but I can't remember how he said it. It was like gut, like go without it or be without it. Ah, that's it.
because we're on the sidelines. I mean, how are we going to get these people to stop using English? That's chakute, which we've adopted that as well for, like, when we start talking about, and there's a fine line with some of this stuff too. Like, it's a delicate thing to get people to stop using English, and I tease about it sometimes, but I know how difficult it is, and I know a lot of people have a lot of things they want to say, and big gatherings and all this other stuff. But then sometimes we also use this to talk about overcoming trauma and healing, and not to say get over it, but it's just saying, like, do without it now. Like, sometimes you just gotta let go of some stuff, and it's all hard, but this is part of it. It's not just use it judiciously, but it means to be without it, right? And it could have a bunch of different uses. Like, we're gonna go somewhere, and I'm stalling everybody because I want to use my favorite sunglasses and I can't find them. I say, "Chakute," just be without it, right? So it could be, and so you could also say, "Oh, I left home without my keys," right? So this is how you say without, because a lot of times we know how to say teen and on and stuff like that to be with something. This is how you say without it.
And then, Ḳēnhwnéi, what if you say chagut, like for different? Is that related, or am I off base there? Like, what is?
Yeah, because you do have there's qunna and qut, and this has to do with an other thing. So I think it is a little bit different. It just happens to sound the same. Like, yeah, if you say chakut, that means a different one. So there's a whole bunch of these, like, that's where qunana comes from, and qunate, and but you have a whole bunch of those that come from this qut or qu, right? Because sometimes you can have an N on it. And then that's where you can have, like, chakut yede differently. Yeah, that's a good point. They are spelled and they sound exactly the same. Chakutat, yeah, chakutat. The something different is something different. ʼatutli.
I'm going to put in the ʼatángi. I put words in the chat. Du alaka. This comes from a video you made.
Oh.
And the translation says, now we are going to vote. And I want to know which part of it is which.
Okay. Let's figure it out. Hey, Johan. See. Let's go talk, you. What are the parts?
people are going to do something because it's a future verb.
Oh, okay, yeah, so we got one of these. We're gonna. It's like gach tu. Once you see gach tu, it's we're gonna. The exception would be a hortative g conjugation verb. Okay, gach tu on. Let's go up there. You gotta catch it in the tone.
Mm-hmm.
So what's qeex? If we go up here and we see khwaqiq, that's the same root right there. I threw it and it got lost. So if you say gach tuqiq, we're going to throw a single object. Because throwing is another one of these, like throwing, swimming, carrying. There's a few of these verbs that just launches it right into Tlingit categories. Everybody's favorite game. Right, so we're going to throw it. And then we have aqa away, and then ha saqu, people's names. So the word for voting, because there's a different, if you're raising your hand to vote, you could say kejitlitsaq, right? But if you're going to talk about like voting for people, the way that Tlingit talks about them is throwing their name. Because this, even though it is throwing, that also could mean to donate. Dana, gachtaqiq. We're going to donate money. We're going to vote. We're going to vote for people. And so you can also say, dusai. Dusai gachtaqiq. I get in trouble if I say who, though. I can't tell you who to vote for. I'll break university policy. Sometimes it's hard to do. It's not hard to break it. It's hard to not. I just want to break the law. Okay, sorry. So then there's some more that are listed in Lear's notes, and I didn't filter all the way through. I made it in about an hour, and so I just grabbed everything. But so you have like cause them to fall, so you can see that just like waking someone up, you could say you made me fall, right? So now you can have like agency in there, and then you have a responsibility has fallen on them. So this is, if you get elected, you could say, which could also mean it became my responsibility, right? So if we're talking about something, right? They were elected. Fell into their hands. So this is a metaphor right here. So you'll see this. I'm not going to go through all the Raven book examples, but I want you to read them. I want you to read every single example on here and ask any questions that you have. Some of them are very complicated. But when they say like he really wants to obtain something, and then he'll say, how is it going to fall into my hand? So he'll use this one quite a bit. So it is like literally like, wow, just like poof, right? Falling behind, a shukau zigit, doing something before someone does, really. So a gate is generally against it. I would say a gate. If I just heard someone say a gate, my first thought would be violating a custom or a law, but it also means to be against something. And what's
Bad.
Yes, out of control. So is like, it's really getting bad, right? To gate would to get, so that's offending. So you could say, to gate you offended me. Oops, I skipped one. Would to get, made a mistake. Yanach would to get, disappeared. geet. They acted this way. They were behaving this way, breaking the law, doing something wrong, and then greeting someone. Geet. They geeted to their face, right? And so that's to like do something, greeting someone. Whole bunch of really cool ones. So I just looked for every geet and git verb from the Raven book because that's the most easily searchable one. I think we need to retype hashuka so that we can do searches for this stuff again. And there is a shit word in here. So this class is an explicit rating. But ʼatutli is something that he was called, and this is ʼatutli, which is very specific in terms of being that's very literal language. You see Kaja in here. He's the one whispering over there. A whole bunch of really cool examples. Then if there was like really good stuff around it, I grabbed the stuff around it as well. And that gets us to the xeex verbs. We're almost out of time. So xeex, to fall or drop or hit, a single thing, right? And so you can have daku wachich. You can have to fall onto something, and then you can have falling around something, for something to emerge or to come out, or to fall on a certain day. You have choking or having something stuck in your throat. So do tucht uwachich is like they choked on it, right? Worrying, adat, I'm worried about it. I'm worried about you. And then you have the potato fell down. I don't know why I'm a big fan of potato sentences, but just sounds very dramatic, like the potato fell down. For something to drop through, and there is one you could say which is it fell into my pupils, which means like I really got into it, right? It's usually a person, right? And then you have xeex for run, right? And so now we get motion verbs, and this is singular only, right? So it's a whole different verb when we go to plurals. So we have na, zero, ʼxeexwnéi for something to, like for an engine to start running. So you could say ʼxeexwnéi wooch, the engine started. To run away, to get lost. And you can have jidach in front of it. So you can have like ach jidach wooch, or ach jidach kut wooch, which would be you were in a relationship and now you're not, right? They took off. It would be the runnoft verb. Shuchich for something to come to an end or to die. It depends on what we're talking about. But you'll see, like, our rice is all gone. Oh, here's another potato verb. So dramatic, but we're all out of rice. We will live on potatoes. Literally, like we will kunska on top of potatoes. For something you can run out of something. So you could say do jichu. They ran out of their own supply, their own stuff. And then you have a third xeex, which is for celestial bodies to move. So here we have wind blowing, a strong wind to blow, the sun or moon to rise, the sun or moon to set, and then our fourth xeex, which is for something to happen. And this is where you get it's starting to happen, right? I'll say ʼxeexwnéi it's starting to happen. I like to say that at the beginning of class a lot of times. And then you have oh, there's Yahweh as well. So there's a 0 version of this, which would mean for some big event to occur, like a celebration, some kind of holiday. And then the S classifier is to celebrate something. So remember, I was really maybe too literal with ʼatutli in the translations on his speech. He was saying, let's celebrate our language. Let's celebrate it. And then you have to have an affair. So then you have ʼxeex, which is they're spreading themselves together. And then you also can have Wooch in this, which is another way to say fooling around, I think. But maybe, no, this is the one I got from, I think this is a form I got from George Davis. And then same thing, you get just going through Lear's notes to find all the ʼheech ones, just to see, and they're not in any particular, I think his are in a pretty good order. They might bounce around a little bit between those 4 different verb roots, right? But again, like, not everybody sees them as different, but I kind of do. And you get exhausted, falling over, went back to normal, walk, talk. I guess talk, right? So what's really cool is there's a talk on there. Talk, which is a cavity, a cavern. There's a cavern in your eye, and that's how you say pupil. It's like, and same with fire. So you say, gantatade, throw it in the fire. Gantatade, throw it in the, or naqik. So check these out. You know, there's a bunch of stuff in here, and then there's a whole bunch of these. There's even more of these than the geet verbs in the Raven book. And I'm sure once we retype all the others, we'll be able to find a whole bunch more of these. But I think it's really fun to see how these work. It went behind the land, or went behind the that one you get a lot with the Raven stories, where like he flies behind some point and then he cleans himself up over there. It's usually what he's up to. So I will put this in the chat so you have it, and I'll put it on our page when I fix that up tonight. Any thoughts or questions before we go? I know we didn't get to, I guess we'll put these in the chat as well. Oh yeah, Heen, come to kuhu eat. There's our dried up riverbed, gonna cheesh. And there's, I'll put 2 names in the chat. Tell me how they work if you can. But we'll do that on Wednesday though. And then Wednesday we'll get back to our cranking out the verbs with the true language. I don't know what I was trying to do. Cheesh.
So, hey, Lance, how do we get all those? How do we get that listing? Is that in your dictionary? You just look up the verb?
Yeah, not all of them are. And so, but a lot of them are. And so, but the ones like, so going back to this document, like basically the ones that have when you see the colors, those are the ones that are in the dictionary. And then when you see, then when you get to the black and white ones, those are examples, both from Lear and then also from the Raven book.
And can we access those, or do we have to come to this video?
Oh, I put it in the chat, and then I'll put this PDF document onto our class page as well. So you can download it for sure. Yeah. The original's in InDesign. If y'all want it, I had to use InDesign to keep the colors. When I copy and paste, I lose the colors. So. But yeah, all these are there, and then the draft of the Raven book is out there too. I don't know if you folks have that, but I could put a link to that. I don't know where it's at. What's going to happen with it? Anything else?
Dasaway, Kushukyatank, or Kagishawu, Kagishawu. Yeah. Dasawe Hagishawu Yuchatangi, Kashuk Yuchatangi. Do you know Kagishawu's email? I had some questions about the verb forms that I'm working on.
Sure,
and,
I could.
And maybe you could help really quick, because it's just a real quick. Some of the verb forms he was using for to bark. He was using the na act version of it. I think it's act. Yeah, na act version. But he was always prefacing anything but the perfective with a ush sound. So he would
to
go
bark at someone.
Yeah, so like she would ask him for the future, and she would cue it with, when he had trouble, she would cue it with something like aya guchtlasha, and then he would always say back ke glitch shaya guchtlasha. So he was always putting this kind of sh in front of it, and she even used it, but I was wondering why it was said that way, but in the paradigm it's written ayashlasha, ayagashlasha.
Oh, like.
And I was
This
working on.
ush right here.
Yeah, just pretty much that's what it sounds like.
When you get a lot of, you'll see this in Lear's work. You'll see this sometimes in the verb dictionary, and you'll see it a lot in Carey's work, where they're saying a third person, but they're using ush. And I think one of the reasons for that is because for the speakers, it's kind of abstract to just say, the dog's barking at him. And so they end up throwing ush on there to say, like, this person we've been talking about, or this sort of main character of the story. So that's really what ush does. And so when you read the Raven stories, you will see ush come up quite a bit, because they'll have 3 or 4 characters. And if it's unclear who is doing the thing, you'll see ush kind of pop up. So usually it's like, we're going to talk about Raven. Raven's doing all this stuff. Raven, Raven, Raven. He does this, he does that. And it's always third person verbs, right? Which are non-gendered and usually like totally unmarked too. So then you'll see like, he does that, he does this, he does that, all right? Or you can say they, right? So then if they're going to switch, they'll say, and then Anuk does this to him. It will switch to ush as the object. It can only be the object, but the object switches to ush to be like, oh yeah, so it's happening to Raven now. And so it kind of signals that. And that's the only thing I could think of, because yeah, a bunch of these have ush, where we would use tuk ayatasha. Dog always barks at him, them. Right.
Okay. So I don't know if this is something I should ask for her opinion about, or if it's okay just to do, because I can take his voice and splice together the way it is in the paradigm. I can take the off of ush and have it be a yatlasha, and you wouldn't even notice.
Oh, cool.
Do you think that's okay?
I gotta stop the recording. Hold on.